Hello everybody and welcome back to Independent Art Storytime. Today we're going to have the second part of chapter 5 of the Box of Delights. Kay and Mouse have just been listening behind the door to hear of the rat and his nephew informing Abner Brown about whether Cole Hawlings still has the Box of Delights in his possession. Rat and his nephew have been unceremoniously kicked out of the Rupert Arms by the foxy-faced gentleman and chubby-faced Joe. "Two infernal fools," Abner said. "They don't seem to have had a very high opinion of your ancient pupil, my dear," he said, turning to the lady. "I don't wonder," Sylvia Daisy Pouncer said placidly. "He was a child for whom I had the utmost detestation and contempt. A thoroughly morbid, dreamy, idle muff with a low instinct for the turf, which will be his undoing in later life." "Well now," Abner said, "the question resolves itself into this. What did that man do with the box when those fellows let him get past them at Seeking's house?" "I felt it too late," his wife replied, "that we ought to have been there and not trusted it to those people. However, it's too late now to cry over the spilt milk." "It's not too late to make the spillers cry," Abner said angrily. "Of all the blithering fools I have ever had to deal with, Joe and those two are the most blithering. He got away right under their noses." "And as for Cole," Sylvia Pouncer Brown replied sweetly, "if he hid the box he must have done one of two things. Either hidden it on one of the bookshelves at the study at Seeking's, there are old books there hardly ever disturbed, or possibly in the old cupboard in the hall there underneath the stairs. He didn't go upstairs, that I know. I've been over to Seeking's in the last 20 minutes and talked to two of the little girls. They told me everything. Cole gave a marvellous conjuring performance and did not leave the library until the Tatchester choir interrupted the party. Then, apparently, he went into the hall and from the hall went out with the choir. Therefore, if he hid the box, it must have been in the library or the hall." "Not necessarily, my brightness," Abner said. "While the party was singing carols in the hall, he could have slipped upstairs and hidden the box there." "I grant that he could, my astuteness," Sylvia said, "but little girls said he didn't." "Whatever they said, my inspiration, the point will have to be eliminated as a matter of routine," Abner said. "Besides, he may not have hidden it. He may have handed it to somebody. Who were there? Those Jones children and this boy Kay Harker, your ancient pupil. I think, my ideal, and hope that you may agree, that he would not have trusted a treasure so great to any child whom he had not seen before that afternoon." "Well then, there remains the guardian," Silver said, "this Caroline Louisa." "Cole would have regarded her as the mistress of the house, certainly," Abner said, "as a woman to be trusted. He must have been close to her in the hall. He could have handed it to her and whispered to her to keep it safe for him." "Your imagination is quite Shakespearean," Sylvia Daisy said. "Therefore," Abner said, "we shall have to take steps about Madame Caroline Louisa." "May a weak woman make a suggestion, my star-like Abner?" Sylvia said. "Is it not more likely that he handed it to the bishop, the archdeacon, or one of the canons? You see, he really was in luck. There he was, unexpectedly in the midst of the most respectable company in the country, every one of which could be trusted to any amount." "It is only too likely, my empress," Abner said. "Those three fools have let us in for a perplexing time. Supposing the box is not hidden, and supposing he didn't give it to this Caroline Louisa, he'd have handed it probably to the bishop. Whichever of the cathedral staff had it, he would have called in the others. He'd have called in the dean, the treasurer, and the other fellows in the cathedral, and they'd have put the box in the cathedral treasure vaults. And you know what kind of vaults they are. Guy Fawkes and his powder wouldn't get through those, and as we know from bitter experience. And that's where the box is now, depend upon it." "My dear," his wife said. "I think you look a little too much on the gloomy side of things. I do not doubt that in a normal season the bishop, or whoever it was, would have acted as you suggest. But this isn't the normal season. At this time, so near to Christmas time, the whole cathedral staff is working overtime and normal practices are in abeyance. I think it very likely, my dear, that the bishop, or whoever it was, when he got home to the palace or the deanery or the canonry, put the box into a drawer in his dressing table amongst his collars and handkerchiefs, and thought nothing more about it." Abner shook his head. "My priceless pearl," he said, "my blue and yellow sapphire, if I may call you so. I wish I could think it, but if Cole didn't hide it, he gave it to someone, that's sure, and that's the first point to settle. Our routine will soon find out which." "Will you ask the boy?" Sylvia said, again making a sign with her hand. "I can't till I get home," he answered. "With luck we ought to know before then. Look here, Sylvia, I'm tempted to get rid of Charles with his infernal—" "Ha ha, what?" "Oh no, my emerald," she said. "He is one of our most precious workers. Get rid of Charles? Never, whatever for?" "He was in charge of Joe and the other," Abner said, "specially charged to nobble and scrobble Cole. He knew that Cole had a Punch and Judy show. He let Cole go right past him with the goods on him and his Toby dog in his pocket and the Punch and Judy show on his shoulder. Could a prize imbecile have been blinder or sillier, I ask you?" "My Abner," Sylvia said, "you are unjust to our Charles. The terrier may have been in Cole's pocket. Many terriers are very small, and no doubt the show was also folded up very tight so as not to be seen." "Of course it was. How unjust of you to blame poor Charles. I repeat, my emerald, never think of it. He did his duty well, in a terrible night of storm, and was deceived by a great ruse. Get your routine to work by all means, but then get home and ask the boy." "The routine is all at work," he said. "As to Charles, I shall follow my own judgment." "My topaz, my diamond," Sylvia said, "your judgment is necessarily now mine. Can you not see that Charles is our only buffer against the stupidity and the craft of Joe? Can you not see that Charles is the only friend we have? But enough, my idol. You do see, I see you see. And now as to this child, Maria Jones, whose ways you like. I admit she sounds the most promising. Remember that Cole may have given the box to her." "I remember that," Abner said, "but even so, that would be a point in her favour. I think you'll agree that she would be an acquisition. She must be here with 9 now, 9 and Charles. I shall ring for them to bring her." "Do my own, Abby," Sylvia said. Kay saw Abner stretch out his left hand and press a button in the middle of the table. An electric bell rang somewhere below in the house, and almost immediately the foxy-faced man and another curate who Kay had never seen before entered with little Maria. "Ah, Miss Maria," Abner said, "good morning. It was most kind of you to come over in answer to our message. Somebody was saying that you were very much interested in stained glass, and we were making up a little party to go over to St. Griswold's this morning, lunching there, looking at the glass, and being back at Sea King's before tea. Would you care to come along? Oh, by the way, you haven't been introduced. This lady is Mrs. Brown." "Oh, thank you very much," Maria said, nodding at Mrs. Brown. "I'll be delighted. It's rather a mouldy lot of glass, isn't it, at St. Griswold's?" "In the main church, yes," the foxy-faced man said. "Nothing a day earlier than 15th century. But in the Lady Chapel there's some lovely, the best that was ever done." "It's a pretty mouldy thing, English glass, if you ask me," Maria said. "Well, I think you'll find that this isn't English glass," the foxy-faced man said. Well, my dear, Mrs. Brown said, before we start, would you like to run back to Seekings and get some thick wraps? No, I'll come as I am, Maria said. Thanks. Would you like to leave word, Mrs. Brown said, that you will be out until tea time? Oh, no, Maria said. Thanks. They know that I can look after myself. They won't bother about me. I've generally got a pistol or two on me, and I'm a dead shot with both hands. How you must enjoy the quiet atmosphere of school, Abner said. School? Maria said. They know better than to try to get that game on me. I've been expelled from 3, and the headmistresses still swoon when they hear my name breathed. I'm Maria Jones, I am, somewhat talked of in school circles, if you take the trouble to inquire. I count it as a great honour, Abner said, to entertain such a distinguished ornament of her sex. Then we shall start, shall we? We shall have a look at the glass in the morning light, and then we'll go to Bear's Paw at Tatchester for lunch, the place still famous for duck patty. Then we will glance at the western window while it has the light behind it, and bring you safely back to Seekings in good time for tea. They moved out from the room, Mrs. Brown with her hand on Maria's shoulder. Kay crouched in the spy hole and tried to cry out, Don't go with them, Maria. They're up to no good. They're a gang. But being tiny as he was, his voice made a really little squeak, like the soft buzzing of a fly. Back now, he said to the mouse. Back now to Seekings as fast as we can ever go. At this instant, round the corner of the corridor in which they were, came a party of the wolves of the Gulf. They'd been drinking more rum since Kay had passed them, and there they were, pot valiant, swinging lighted lanterns in their hands and brandishing cutlasses in their right. Kay heard one of them say, There are their footsteps in the dust. 2 of them, a mouse and another, will grind their bones to make our bread. Yes, another said, it's the cold-blooded cheek of it. Coming past us when we were taking our ease round the bowl, we'll cut them into collops. There they are. Where? Said another. I'll eat their livers fried. Up there, the first one said. Up there where they can't escape. Come now. They cried to Kay. Come on, we'll mince you into collops and we'll eat your livers fried. Kay saw their gleaming teeth, their red eyes and their flashing cutlass edges. Give me your hand, mouse, he said, and quickly he caught the mouse's hand, and with his other hand he twiddled the knob on the magic box so that he might go swiftly, and instantly the 2 of them were plucked up into the air and whirled past the wolves of the Gulf back to Seekings. He dropped his weapons in Mouse's armoury and went back into his room and resumed his shape. Kay, Susan was saying from the other side of the door, do you know where Jemima is? No, he said. What do you want Jemima for? Well, she said, I was out in the street buying Christmas presents, and Maria went into a car with some total strangers at the Rupert's Arms, and she's gone off with them, and she knows it's absolutely forbidden to go in cars with total strangers. What sort of a car was it? Peter asked. Oh, it was a big, rather old, dark car. I didn't like the look of the strangers at all, although 2 of them were dressed as curates. I expect it'll be all right, Kay said. He didn't think that it would be all right. Actually, he was very much worried. Kay did not know what to do. He wished that Caroline Louisa was there. And as he went downstairs, Ellen met him. Oh, Master Kay, she said, I didn't hear you come in. There has been a message from your guardian. She'll be here tonight by the 8:07, she says, and while you're all at Tatchester at the Punch and Judy show. Oh, good. I am glad, he said. Is her brother well, then? Much better, she said, Master Kay. Oh, splendid. He called the others into the study and told them how Maria had gone with Abner and the gangsters. She'll be all right, Peter said. Maria can look after herself. It is like Maria, Jemima said, to go plunging off with any scoundrels who'll come along with a suggestion. I say it's rather sport, Susan said. Supposing they say, Miss Maria Jones, will you either join our gang or don't go down in the oubliette forever? I pity any gangster who talks like that to Maria, Peter said. Supposing she joins the gang, Susan said. We might not see her again for years. Then presently, when we're all old and frightfully hard up, suddenly a mysterious lady covered with diamonds will drive up in a Rolls and say, I'm your long-lost sister Maria. Came back. I'm the queen of the gang now, and all your troubles shall be at an end. She'll be the queen of the gang all right, Kay said, but he felt uneasy, and he wished he knew what to do. He went round to the Rupert's Arms to speak to the proprietor, Miss Calamine. Could you tell me, please, who the clergymen were who were here this morning? Those, Master Kay, she said. That was the Reverend Dr. Bottledale, and his wife and chaplain and private secretaries. He is the head of the Missionary and Theological Training College at Chester's in the Chester Hills. I thought he was named Mr. Brown. Oh no, Master Kay, he's well known and a very holy man, and his lady, Mrs. Bottledale, oh, she does wear some lovely jewels. She reminds me of someone who I've seen somewhere. It's always on the tip of my tongue who. Kay knew who, but he didn't say. By this time a steady warm rain had set in from the west. Under it the snow was falling apart into water. All spouts and gutters streamed and gurgled, and the snow heaped at the sides of the roads had turned to a dirty grey. As it was very wet, the children stayed indoors after lunch. First they played work, and then they played murder, and Kay thought, if Maria doesn't come back by dark, I'll go to the police station. We shall have to start for Tatchester at 4:30. Somehow I don't think the inspector will be much help in the business. The darkness came before 4 o'clock that evening, and little Maria had not returned. Kay slipped round to the inspector of police and told his story with his suspicions. Have no fear, Master Kay, the inspector said. The Reverend Dr. Bottledale is a pillar of the church and respectability. I've sung in the glee club with him time and time again. A very sweet tenor, Master Kay. Now depend upon it, Master Kay, that you've come home, if I may say so, a little faint from the strain of learning. Your nerves want food. I often notice it in young fellows just back from school. Your young friend is in good hands, believe me, and as to her not being back quite at the time that she said they'd be back, consider, Master Kay, the state of the roads, all swimming with sludge and filth, and the rain coming down on your windscreen so that you can't see a thing. She'll be back, you may be sure. Or wait one moment, Master Kay. Wasn't you to be tonight at the Punch and Judy show at the Tatchester Palace? Yes, Kay said. I was. We were just going to start. And wasn't Miss Maria to be there? The inspector asked. Well, then you say she's been at St. Griswold's to look at the old glass. Why should she come all the way back to Seekings if she's got to be in Tatchester again at 5:30? She's a young lady who knows what's what. She'll have stopped in Tatchester, depend upon it, Master Kay, had tea there, and then gone on direct to the palace. You'll find her there when you get there. I hadn't thought of that, Kay said. Of course, that's very likely to have happened. Ah, the inspector said, we in the law, Master Kay, we've got a maxim. It's the easy explanation that never occurs. You think all battle, murder and sudden death, and all the time it's only a tyre getting a puncture, or something equally simple. And we in the law, Master Kay, have another proverb. Never cross the water till you've come through it. Time enough to think of making a bridge when you're at the water's brink, but until then, don't worry, Master Kay, and you get that good guardian of yours to see that you take a strong posset every night. But you young folks in this generation, you don't know what a posset is. Well, a posset, said the inspector, is a jorum of hot milk, and in that hot milk, Master Kay, you put a egg, and you put a spoonful of treacle, and you put in a grating of nutmeg, and you stir 'em well up, and you get into bed, and then you take 'em down hot, and a posset like that, taken overnight, will make a new man of you, Master Kay, while now you're all worn down with learning. Kay thanked him, and hurried back to Seekings, where all the children were clamouring for him to hurry up or they'd be late for the Punch and Judy. It's all right, Kay said. We'll be in lots of time. It's not much of a run to Tatchester, on the Roman road most of the way. They got into the car, and in spite of the slush upon the roads, They were soon at Tatchester Palace, where the bishop and his sister gave them royal tea. And there we are at the end of chapter 5 of the Box of Delights. We'll be back tomorrow with chapter 6. We'll look forward to seeing you then.